Good morning. How's it going, folks? It's the bro. The bro show. What's happened? What's gone on and happened here? Inbreakers. That's what my old man would say. That's what Mr. Grandpa Alfonso would say. Inbreakers last night. Let's get the chat rolling here. Morning, everybody. Fans of Magic the Gathering, amazing fans from around the world who love the game as much as we do. Thank you so much for tuning in here today. It's Monday. Man, is it a Monday? Monday here on the stream. You know what I mean. I got a couple of articles for you folks today. Gonna check the price of Magic cards. Do you like tracking the prices of Magic cards? Is there enough information out there, or is there just too much information? Let me do it for you. I'm doing it anyway on the weekdays, Monday through Friday, here on the show. It's Brody Alfonso's Morning Magic the Gathering Stocks and Magic the Gathering Talks. And I'll tell you, Magic the Gathering rocks for all you folks who love to in. How's my audio working this morning? Got some viewers in the chat here on this birthday stream. Yes, if you know what I mean. What's going on? A couple of folks tuned in here this morning. How was your weekend? What did you get up to? Did you get to play a little bit of Magic the Gathering with some friends? Did you get out to some events? What did you do? Did you just sit at home and be a homeboy? It's quite possible that you just did nothing at all. And that's fine too. I got a, I don't even know how I'm going to, but I'm going to give it a go. Morning Magic Stocks here. All right, couple of articles here this morning. If you stick with me here, what is the best format choices for Magic the Gathering in December of 2023? If you're struggling to pick a format to play this month of December for the Christmas holidays, we've got you covered. Don't worry. We're going to take a look at a couple of formats. CEDH, it seems to be my favorite these days. I got a little cup of coffee here this morning. So let's take a sip of that morning Java. CEDH, the format of my choosing for December. The pros and cons: dual commander. You can play some dual commander. Standard, Pioneer, Modern, Legacy, Limited, Pauper, Vintage, Alchemy, Craft. And that is not the end. One of the greatest things Magic the Gathering lauds over other TCGs is the customizable and customization of gameplay that it offers to players. Typically, most trading card games only have a few ways to play the game inside and out of a casual setting, but Magic has countless different ways that you can play. What is your favorite? What is your format of choice? Leave me a comment in the chat here this morning if you're tuning in. Throughout this morning's show, we're going to be running through some of the pros and cons of Magic's most popular and interesting format. Simple. Sounds simple enough. With simple instructions and an overlook of each of the formats, hopefully this article will help you find the perfect format just for you. And without further ado, we'll jump right into the list after a brief discussion. First off, we're going to talk a little bit about Commander. So there's Casual Commander, there's CEDH, which is Competitive Commander. And on paper, it's somewhat remarkable how Commander is starts to spark a lot of differences compared to any other Magic the Gathering formats, boasting a casual, unique look and deck construction rules. The diverse metagame Commander is definitely one of the formats of favor for most people. Through the differences, Commander players, they typically build their decks for fun rather than pure function. This mindset is often bolstered in existence of the Rule Zero. This talk about Rule Zero again. All right, allowing players to implement their own casual rules, prioritizing the game experience rather than trying to win. Commander is undeniably a unique format. Well, the Rule Zero, what does that mean to you? Leave me a comment in the chat. You can hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. That really helps the show grow, and it lets me know that you folks are watching. How do you feel about Rule Zero? Yeah, I think Rule Zero is something that typically is reserved for casual play. I talked to T Freezy about the whole Rule Zero, the whole real Rule Zero thing. What do you folks think about Rule Zero? Is it casual, or should the Rule Zero be around for when you go to play at a tournament? Let me know. Uh, opinion. Share it with me again. My opinion. The commander, and I sort of agree with Tyler Freezy, Chief Freezy on the Rule Zero. The Commander Rules Committee has put a whole lot of time and effort into the ban list for Commander, making up a list of cards that you can't play, so that when people move out of their local meta, they know what to expect. So myself, if I'm moving into tournament play or outside in my regular game meta to where there is a different play group, I would like to stick with the official Commander Rules Committee ban list so that we know what to expect. It does become a little bit interesting when folks start to make up their own home rules, especially in a store or in a competitive setting. While the Commander format has undoubtedly got a lot of strength, as mentioned, it's unique. So much, in fact, that if you're looking to get into it, you may need a rundown of its rules and eccentricities. Thankfully, if this is you, we're here to help as we're going to go through a refresher on Commander's rules and the differences compared to 60 card formats. In terms of the rules, Commander's got a multitude of unique factors. Firstly, players start at 40 life, and traditionally, we start at 20. Creates a bit of a longer game and allows people to set up wacky strategies. Your life total is a resource in the game of Magic the Gathering. So when we're dealing with Commander, a little more life total is definitely going to give you some more depth in your strategy. If you're paying life for some mechanics that are in your deck, having the 40 life resource to pull from is going to make for an interesting game. It introduces a lot of table politics and changes the effectiveness of many strong cards in competitive formats. Crowning the point of Commander's uniqueness is the rules around deck construction. Commander usually has exactly 100 cards in between the main deck and your Commander being played. Cannot have more than one copy of each card in your deck, except for the basic land, and each Commander deck must be helmed by a General, which sits in your command zone, and it can be cast from the command zone at any legal time for its mana value. Although you cannot cast a creature with Flash, as though you did, for example, unless something else allows you to do that. Whenever that card changes zones, including changing control, players have the choice to return the commander to the command zone instead of putting it in the graveyard. They can recast their commander, but in doing so, it's going to cost you additional 2. That's right, 2 more mana to cast your banana. Two more mana to cast your commander. The rules have been laid out, and they're a little bit simplified for this explanation, but some of the great pros of the commander format It's a great format to play with a friend group. It can be relatively cheap to start playing. Casual play can allow new players to be quite creative, and the play is customizable to the right group. Slower games allow for some crazy scenarios and high exploration, some interesting board states once people start to get their permanents on board and create some interesting interactions that you won't normally find in a two-player game. New cards are constantly being released in the format of Commander, allowing for an endless amount of possibilities, and it's an easy format to get a group together and play. Most pods of Commander are 4-player. Anything outside Commander's ban list and all cards illegal by sanctioned play are legal in Commander, giving it a massive card pool. All right, some of the downsides of Commander, right? The game states can be difficult to keep up with and understand for even for experienced players. That's a fact. You can get some pretty wacky interactions. You got to really maintain your eye on the board state because in Commander things can escalate very quickly. Effects can get stacked on one another in a gameplay of Commander, and it gets a little bit hard to keep track of, especially if you have some state-based effects on the battlefield. Some players do not like the social politic aspect of Commander. Some people don't like it. Some people thrive on it. Games can go very long, especially in casual play. New cards are constantly being released, making it difficult to keep up with. And then there's Dual Commander, which is more of like a 1v1 style Commander, I'm thinking. Should you want to take Commander to more competitive environment and play with only 2 players, Dual Commander might be for you, with its own separate ban list that gets rid of high variance cards that are a bigger issue in 2-player formats like Sol Ring. Dual Commander is a rather unique experience compared to the main format. Like Commander, Dual Commander has its own separate council that overlooks the health of the format, actively making changes to ensure that the format remains healthy. All right, Dual Commander. We used to play Canadian Highlander, which was sort of a one-on-one type of duel with a 100-card deck, but I'm gonna have to take a look at Dual Commander sanction list, like the actual list, because I've generally been playing CEDH, which is the 4-player format. But consider the flagship of formats, Magic 2-player offering. We're gonna talk about Standard. Some people may say Standard is dead, but if you go onto Arena, that's where you're gonna see most Standard gameplay. Operates on a 3-year rotation cycle. As a result, Standard did not go through its normal rotation in 2023. Instead, the next time Standard's going to rotate is 2024. This rules change was aimed at revitalizing the ailing format, and the rotation hasn't been without controversy. Lamented for prolonging the stagnant state of the metagame, many players aren't happy about what Wizards of the Coast is doing with Standard, but thankfully, while this wasn't initially a problem, recent sets have shaken up the metagame and keeps things interesting once again. Currently, while the original rotation change has allowed players to invest in their cards for a longer period of time, Standard, that's another problem that I always found was hard to keep up with, is like the constant rotating of some Standard. It makes it a little bit, yes, it's a very expensive format to keep up with. Good morning, Cosmic Steeds. Nice to see you here today. Joining us all the way from Las Vegas, we are reading an article here this morning about the pros and the cons of Magic the Gathering format. Standard being the one that it's going to cost you a pretty penny just to keep up with Standard, and when it isn't cheap, when Arena offers a cheap way to play, the game's economy is still troubled for new players because you need a credit card to play on Arena. Unless you want to get the free play, it may take you a while. Standard blows. All right. Thankfully, while playing Standard, the metagame is currently very exciting. Following the release of the Lost Cavern of Ixalan, players have seen a dramatic shakeup in the competitive order, and thanks to this, it's currently a great time to get into Standard. So many archetypes and interesting viability. Okay, so access to Standard is fairly easy. You can get to it on Arena. You can play with the game's newest cards. It rewards deep decision making, and it's a cheaper than a majority of other formats to buy into. Lots of support from Wizards of the Coast. While the decision making can be complicated, board states are somewhat easy to understand. Some of the downfalls of standard, if you do not like mid range strategies, might be out of luck. Yeah, a lot of the standard strategies are kind of mid range. Modern being a very fast format, standard being a little bit more grindy. It's not very popular in paper because of its rotating format. It is the most expensive format in Magic over a more extended period of time, since you'll eventually need to build a new deck every couple of months. Wizards of the Coast is aware of the weaker points of Standard at the moment and are trying to change the direction of the format that it's heading. As a result, Standard may be in for a short renaissance in the coming months. What do you think? Is Standard going to take a back seat in the next couple of months, especially in this economy? Dual Brain is here. Good morning. Monday, I don't care. I'm putting on Brody. Hit the like. Luff Balloon. Yeah, somebody broke into the studio last night and put this up. I've got a happy birthday present here from Mrs. Alfonso, and I'm they left some evidence behind, so I do think I know who did it. Who is responsible uh for the studio looking this way? I think I know. All right, well, let's take a minute to talk about Pioneer here, the two-player format that doesn't rotate. The smallest card pool officially supported by Wizards, and all core sets released after Return to Ravnica are fair game in the format. Pioneer is not available on Arena, but instead you've got Explorer, which aspires to become Pioneer eventually, and there are some disparities between the two formats at the moment, which distance them from one another. I have Pioneer. I tried to get into Pioneer. It's not something that I'm going to be able to keep up with. So you got Standard, Pioneer, all right, Explorer now. I know there's some grinders on the internet that try to uh, crack all of the formats, especially in Gank. Frogs are still really cool. Tiny Leaders. You play Tiny Leaders. I'm going to have to look up Tiny Leaders. I've heard of it. But with the other one that's very popular is Popper. And potentially, with the exception of Popular and potentially Commander, none of Magic's formats are really budget friendly. You can even spend a lot of money on Pauper decks, even though Pauper has all commons in it. Pioneer is much cheaper than some of the other non-rotating formats the game has to offer, but smaller card pool does mean that newer cards will have a stronger impact on the format. This creates change, which is good, but it also means that new strategies may cause more spending. Uh, the pros. So let's talk about some of the pros to Pauper. It's cheaper to buy in than any other formats. The best decks still cost hundreds of dollars, which is better than some of the older formats. But the fact that we're dealing with just commons, it can still be quite expensive to play Pauper. Happy one more trip around the sun day. Thanks, Time Capsule. Taking another trip around the sun with me. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. That will be my birthday present from you folks. Anybody new tuning in on the channel, the best darn Magic the Gathering morning talk show out there. We're talking about the pros and cons of Magic the Gathering formats. Right now, Pauper, it's sort of a pro that it's a lot different competitive, got different competitive choices to play. There is only so much depth to Pauper using commons. Some strategies aren't too hard to learn, and it's not difficult for people to find people to play Pauper. The downside for Pauper, uninteractive gameplay means that you'll be losing and winning a lot of games regardless of what you do. The play draw disparity is really bad, and it's near impossible to have a good matchup against the best decks. It's not currently available on Arena, but Modern is our next format up for discussion. Cosmic Seeds loves Pauper. I do counter mill and turn to infect kill in Pauper. How nice. Do you play Pauper? Anybody out there playing Pauper? Uh, let's talk about Modern for a quick second here. So that's our next format onto the discussion table here today. On in paper, Modern is currently uh, believed to be the most popular format outside of Commander. If you're going to any of the big tournaments, the regional qualifiers, the the RCQs or the TPTQs or the TQs, they're all going to be playing Modern. That's the format. If you're going to end up going to some big tournaments, Modern is always going to be the event that flagships the main event, allowing for most cards to be used post 8th edition. It's a non-rotating format that has a huge card pool to brew with. However, due to the higher power levels, the format's incredibly competitive. If you're going to find spikes in Magic the Gathering, it's going to be in Modern. Some people get pretty sweaty when it comes to playing Modern, meaning they don't like to lose. They come to play. They get really upset when things don't go their way, and you can get some salt flying around the Modern table quite regularly. That is where you'll find spikes. Myself, I'm a little bit more of a casual competitive player. I do like to win, but it's not everything. If you end up going to one of these big tournaments, especially playing in the Modern format, you may find that you're running into a lot of people that winning means everything, which includes saltiness, angle shooting, calling the judges, and don't expect to take back any misplays or go backsies in a Modern event setting. Decks can consist up to $1,500 in the Modern format. It certainly isn't easy to get into. Thankfully, this investment is usually rather sound, as Modern rotation rarely happens. Outside of the direct to Modern sets like Modern Horizons, the format remains compelling and consistent with minimal changes. While a lack of rotation may sound rather dull, it's the competitive nature of the format of Modern that people like to excel on. There are some Modern staples, including fetch lands. You got robbed in Vegas, Proham. I got robbed in. Um, yeah, if you're gonna get fetch lands and shock lands, that's another problem. Like, if you don't like the fact that the dual lands are so expensive and you need them to get into Commander, Modern can kind of be the same way, because you definitely need the fetch lands and you definitely need the shock lands to be competitive in Modern. So ultimately, Modern does have a lot of strength, but it does come with some controversy, and largely thanks to the aforementioned direct to Modern sets like Modern Horizons, when Wizards will print a new set, and some of the cards are going to go straight to Modern and change the format because they are so powerful. If you're not playing the top decks, like what you're going to find on MTG top decks or the net decks, you're sadly probably going to find yourself sitting out the top 8 in the winner's circle at a Modern event if you're not playing the jankiest net deck or the top tier deck in Modern. You're probably not going to make it all the way to the end of the tournament. Pros for Modern. It's very popular, not too hard to find someone to play with. Most stores will have Modern on Mondays at their stores. It's a very diverse meta and the powerful strategies for almost anyone's playstyle. There's a lot of room for innovation. There's a large card pool that allows you to use some of your old cards going all the way back to 8th edition, and the gameplay rewards positive decision making. Some of the when you were trying to play, you got losses for bullshit. Yes, Modern runs high dollar land. You got robbed in Vegas means when you were trying to play, you got losses for bullshit. Some of the downsides to Modern is one, it's very expensive, and like I said, the fetch lands and the shock lands are something that's going to cost you a pretty penny just to take a mana base and put it together in the meta game. If you're looking for a chance of artificial rotation, it means there's a potential for the format to be expensive to keep up with. The requirement to play many of the same cards can make the format feel very repetitive. Play sets are big in Modern. You're going to find a lot of the top decks run play sets of the expensive cards, like a play set of Ragavan's probably going to cost you almost $400. So you need multiples in Modern. You need play sets. Some of the card interactions are unintuitive and need to be learned. So some of the card interactions are definitely complicated, and if you don't understand the play patterns, it can be easy to misplay. It's not the easiest format to pick up and learn because it is so competitive in nature, and a lot of games go very quickly. It's hard to solve some of the meta and learn how to fight some of the top decks. And sideboarding is super important when it comes to Modern. Having the right sideboard tech and knowing what to slot into your deck against the top decks to remain competitive makes Modern a bit of a challenge to solve. Let's talk. We got Johan Matuzzi. Brody, how are you? I'm doing good. I'm doing good, Johan. It's nice to see you here. It's I'm having a little bit of a birthday celebration with you folks here today. Thanks for tuning in. We've got people tuning in from Sweden, Las Vegas, Cincinnati, Cleveland, all over the world. It's great to have you folks here. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of Magic the Gathering formats here this morning. We talked about Commander, we talked about Pauper, we talked about Pioneer. We just talked about Modern, and now we're moving on to this article from MTG Rocks talking about Legacy. I like Legacy. It's a format that's near and dear to me because you get to play some of the older cards. Do you folks play Legacy? I like some of the card interactions. Legacy is very expensive. The nice thing about Legacy is that if you're playing Commander, a lot of the lands and a lot of the cards that are staples in Commander, a lot of times they fit, the land base fits right into Legacy. But again, just like Modern, you're going to need play sets. So especially the dual lands, if you're struggling to put a set of dual lands together just for your Commander deck, you're probably not going to like Legacy, where you need play sets of dual lands. It allows players to play with any Magic the Gathering card that's legal for sanctioned play in a two-player format. It makes the gameplay incredibly fast. Legacy can be quite quick. Turn one wins are not that uncommon. Uh, Somewhat common in Legacy, but many players who have been around for a long time absolutely love the Legacy format. And the introduction of cards like Orcish Bowmasters and the recent unbanning of Mind's Desire. I have to take a look here. That's the exile the top card of your library until end of turn. You play that without playing its mana cost. Yes. Mind's Desire has also shaked up the format and keeping invested players intrigued. I am putting together a CEDH deck, an EEDH deck, a Modern deck, and a Legacy deck for Christmas break that's coming up. We're going to be heading south to visit Miss Alphonso's sister for the holidays. So I'm bringing a couple of decks. I'm going to hit up Phoenix Games for maybe a couple of matches there. And I know if you are looking at the schedule at a lot of game stores, they'll usually have rotating formats on different days of the week, and Legacy is on Thursdays. Modern Mondays and Thursday. Dahlia has her 6-month checkup today. I gotta go momentarily. Nice. Have an awesome day. All the best to you, Ed. So some of the main issues around Legacy play is that it's mostly in paper only, and it has a high dollar buy-in thanks to the reserve list. Now, some folks are a fan of the reserve list. Myself, the reserve list, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the reserve list. It can be preventative for people getting into Legacy because it keeps the card prices quite high, and the likelihood of a reprint of anything on the reserve list is very low. So unfortunately, some of the older cards that are staples in Legacy that are on the reserve list can be quite expensive, and it will make it preventatively difficult for players to get into Legacy. But once you get your Legacy staples, keeping up with the format is rather inexpensive because those staples don't tend to rotate. But getting to that point, for many who have not started, is a very expensive task. And there is a ban list for this format, which differentiates just a bit from Vintage. Some of the pros of Legacy are that the game pace is very fast and it rewards good decision play. There's a healthy variety of decks in Legacy. The meta is very diverse. Once you acquire the expensive cards, it's fairly cheap to keep up with if you keep your legacy staples. The thing that I like is a lot of the legacy staples are also good in Commander, so you can exchange cards across those two formats quite easily. And if you want to play legacy, you don't want to pay ridiculous prices for the cards, you can always play on MTG Online. You're loving the beard. The beard is coming in quite well here this season. Some of the downside of Legacy is that it's an absurdly expensive task to get into. Learning the format can be difficult, especially when we have many of us been playing for decades. So folks that have been into the Legacy game for a long time don't have to pony up a lot of dough to keep their decks up to date because they have their staples. But if you're new to Magic, Legacy is going to be a difficult task to get into. If you do not like Force of Will, stay far, far away from this format. Force of Will is very popular in Legacy. You'll occasionally lose the game on the first turn, and you cannot do anything about it. That is a downside to Legacy. That's a fact. Some people are trying to win right off the hop in Legacy. Turn one, win. That's possible in Legacy. If you don't like that, well, this format's not going to be for you. But if you do like popping off a turn one win, uh, my wife has stolen my Brody t-shirt. All right, Johan. We're gonna have to get you. Don't have no fear. Have no fear. Your wife has stolen the Brody t-shirt. Mine would. Okay, so have no fear, Johan, because in the very near future, the new Brody shirts will be coming out. There's a new design that Mrs. Alfonso and I have been working on. It's a new design, new color, completely revamped and fresh. And I will definitely be getting you one of those new Brody shirts. So have no fear. Unless she steals that one too, then you're going to be 0-2, but that's okay. Uh, for the patrons who have stuck with me for the 6-month term, see, we do things a little bit like you've heard of the mug club and stuff like that. We do the t-shirt club here at Alphonso Investments. So if you join the Patreon, you have a paid slot there. After 6 months, you'll get the Brody shirt, and I'll be sending you a letter in the mail. I've got some letters to go out this Christmas season. And then once the new Brody shirts, we haven't actually put them to print yet, but we're still working on the designs, getting inventory in. Then folks like you, Johan Matuzzi, will be getting the new Brody shirt, and at that point, you'll have an update. And at that point, we'll see if we can't try and replace the one. You know how it goes, though, Johan. When you're dealing with a loved one? I think like Mrs. Alfonso has a saying, mine is mine and what's yours is ours. I think that's how it goes. Yeah. What's mine is mine and what's yours is ours. And it keeps things interesting around the house when your favorite coffee cup goes missing, your favorite t-shirt goes missing. There's not really a lot you can do, but remember those words. What's mine is mine and what's yours is ours. We're talking about Magic the Gathering formats. Now, here's a limited format discussion, and like I really like limited and draft. This was the other big thing that I didn't like about the set boosters coming out, because with the set boosters, yeah, you're welcome, Johan, no problem. With set boosters, you couldn't use them for drafting. And I didn't like the fact that they had two. Now we've got play boosters coming out. And I knew this wasn't going to end well when they came out with set boosters and draft boosters. I had a feeling, I'm like, no. Like this box of War of the Spark here, this box of Fallen Empires, all these regular boxes of Magic cards, you can use them for the draft experience. And that's how the sealed product was designed to play all the way back from the beginning. Is any box of Magic the Gathering, you could crack it with your play groups, do a draft or a sealed event in limited and start playing right then and there. But Wizards sort of tried to maximize profit and take things in a couple of different directions, having set boosters for collectors and play boosters for people who wanted the draft experience. But in my opinion, one of the greatest downfalls to this strategy was that some cards and some variants were only available in set boosters, not in draft boosters. So now players have to make the decision, do they want to go for the They'll only put the nice, expensive cards in the set boost, the variants, only available in set boosters, which you can't draft with, taking the play experience away from players in lieu of things that are shiny. So I was actually quite disappointed and disturbed when Wizards went to the difference between set boosters and play boosters, or set boosters and draft boosters, two separate booster boxes. But now it appears that they've kind of hit the wall with that, going, well, geez, now we're going to have play boosters, which will, I mean, a lot has yet to be written about play boosters, and we'll see how that goes. But I think it's a step in the right direction. Just go back to one box of Magic cards that you can either draft with, play with, and you can get all the good hits in that same box rather than having set boosters and draft boosters separately. My opinion. But the limited format is drastically different experience than any other Magic the Gathering format, because instead of bringing pre-constructed decks to a table to play, you'll instead be opening draft boosters, and who doesn't love opening Magic packs, right? So using the contents of the packs, you build your 40-card deck, whether it's draft or it's constructed. You don't need to worry about basic lands because they'll give you some wherever you're playing. They're provided outside of the game at whoever's hosting or the store that you're playing at. The limited format will have a popular couple of variants. There's going to be sealed, draft, commonly, you'll see pre-releases of a new set which requires sealed, where you get your pre-release kits. Another good way to get into Magic the Gathering is on pre-release. And if you're venturing into the game for the first time, getting yourself to a pre-release, getting a pre-release kit in a limited format is a great way to bring new players to the game. Michael Superbacker's here. Thank you for joining me here this morning. Michael, we're talking about the different formats in Magic the Gathering. We're in the pros and cons. We're on the list all the way down to draft and limited play. Draft being a little bit different, only offered in 3 packs. So you get 3 packs in draft. It requires, instead of building whatever you want, the draft requires players to sit in a circle, and then you pass the packs to the left and then to the right and then left. You pick one card from each pack before passing it. And then each pack requires you to change the direction you're passing the cards. It can be very challenging to brew something in synergy, especially if you're sitting right next to somebody who's playing the same color. A good indication that you've done it right in a draft format is if at the end of the draft, once all the cards have gone around the table, if the person sitting opposite of you is also playing the same colors, and I mean far opposite of you is playing the same colors, that probably means that you did it right, because they wouldn't be cutting you off the colors that you need by sitting next to them, or and you wouldn't be cutting them off the colors that you need sitting next to them, and the card pool is open, whatever you're picking. Drafts can go bad when the person sitting next to you is also in the same color and starts cutting you on the cards that you really need, and then you end up with something watered down. It may force you to try and change your strategy because the person sitting next to you is also playing the same strategy. So draft, you have to be mindful of that when you're drafting and take that into consideration. You know, have a little sip of coffee. But since this is there's an additional couple of aspects to draft, it makes it one of the most challenging formats to master. Some of the positives of draft is that the entry point and the cost to get into draft is fairly low. There's a lot of new cards, and there's no collecting required. It's easy to start playing. You can just open your packs and go to draft and play limited. Player mastery matters a lot more than the cards you get, meaning deck brewers who can spot synergies in Magic or solve the format for a particular set tend to do better in draft because they know what are powerful synergies. If you're drafting, there's the bread strategy. If you haven't drafted in a while, keep this in mind: bombs, removal, evasion, uh, bread. Yes, bombs, which are your big creatures, the big baddies that'll just win you the game. Removal, anything that removes a creature or removes a permanent from the battlefield. Evasion, such as stuff like flying or shadow or any land walk abilities. And then D is well, it's early and I can't really remember. So it's easy to find people to draft with. You can also draft on Arena. Some of the downsides to the draft is that it's the hardest format to play, and there's lots of room to improve at it. The quality of the limited format varies between sets, and some sets will be bad versus some sets will be good for limited formats. Got to go back to work now. See you in the morning. Thanks, Johan. Appreciate you. You need to keep buying cards and packs in order to play unless you make a cube. That means, I really like the jumpstart boosters because you could put them back together and do jumpstart over again. Sealed is a lot more luck based than drafts, and it's easy to open a bad sealed pool and have your chances squandered from the start. It's very luck based. Yes, in sealed you can pick up some stuff that's definitely gonna be if you get the right bomb in your pack, you can pick up some stuff that's definitely gonna just cause you to win the game. There's game winning cards, but if you don't get the bombs, then you're stuck with building something that's sort of mid tier, and at that point you're probably going to lose to the player who picked up the just the better hits. Get lucky. Let's talk about Popper for a second because I know Cosmic says that he's a Popper player. There's a few folks that tune into the show who enjoy Popper. Myself, I don't play Popper, but it's the cheapest format to get into. I should probably pick up Popper because it is a good way to get some extra skills. I've lost. It's funny. I've lost to players who are playing Popper in like a modern versus Popper matchup because just for fun, Popper can be quite competitive and it can be very difficult to beat some Popper decks for competitive players. Buying the best deck in the format won't cost you $100 for Popper for the most part, meaning that the barrier to enter into the Popper format is fairly cheap. It's the lowest of any of the competitive formats. This can also make for some Popper cards surprisingly difficult to find. Unlike other formats, Popper restricts the legal card pool and rarity instead of what the set was released, and any card that has ever been printed as a common is on the table to be played in Popper, except for the cards that are on the ban list. Some of the downsides to Popper, according to Magic players, is that the gameplay, many consider Popper to be absolutely miserable play experience thanks to how powerful Burn is in the format. Yes, if you like playing Burn and you don't like going up against the Burn matchup, you're definitely going to find Burn in Popper. Mono red, lightning bolts, shocks, and burn. But if you don't have a Popper community in your area, you're much better logging onto Magic Online. Some of the pros of the format's incredibly cheap. The gameplay is relatively straightforward. The entry cost is fairly low, and some of the cons are that the play experience is currently the worst the worst of every Magic format. Wow. There's not a lot of support, and it can be tough to find other players to play Popper. Now let's get into the vintage. Let's get into the vintage here. Let's check this. Brody. All right. Vintage is a no-hold-barred format where every single sanctioned Magic card is legal. There's some cards that players can only play one of in their decks, which is typical for other formats, but it's still by far the most powerful format in Magic the Gathering of them all. Unfortunately, not a lot of people play Vintage because how insanely expensive it is. It's not rare for a deck to cost more than a card. Some of the pros of Vintage is that you can play every single card, including Black Lotus. The format's incredibly powerful, and you can do some absolutely ridiculous things that even Commander cannot pull off. Some of the cons are that the players may need to put out a mortgage on their house to get into Vintage. That's a fact. Unless you've been playing for a very long time and you've acquired your cards over years, when they were relatively cheap to what the cards cost now. Some of the cards are incredibly difficult to find in a Vintage format, and most players who are active in Vintage have been playing since the beginning of Magic, so it can be very tough to catch up to them as a new player. Alchemy. All right, what do we got here? Alchemy. I'm not even going to talk about Alchemy because we have got so many other things to discuss here on the morning show. Like your movers and your shakers here this morning. It's Monday, right? I like it. It's Monday. It's Brody's birthday. It's thank you for joining me on the stream here today. Oh, there's confetti in some of these balloons. Okay. I even got a little bit of a Christmas birthday present here for you folks here today. Let's look at Modern here. It's Modern Monday. Okay, banned and restricted. Let's look at that for a second here. MTG banned news. There's supposed to be news coming today. Is today the day the new bannings comes out? Banned and restricted updates. I think we're going to get some news here today. Bans leaked. MTG ban list December 2023. Interesting. Standard ban card as of December 2023. All right, here we go. Fable of the Mirror Breaker is banned. Oh, that's news. Invoke. Okay, so this Fable of the Mirror Breaker, very popular card in Standard. Okay, so what else is Invoke Despair, Reckoner Bankbuster, Reflection of Kiki-Jiki, and the Meat Hook Massacre all getting banned in Standard? Where we want to go? Commander ban cards. Where's the Modern list? Explorer, Historic, Legacy. Come on, Modern. I want to see if Fury made it on the list. It doesn't look like Fury made the list. Up the Beanstalk was another card that we were kind of hoping would be left alone. Oathbreaker, Pauper, and Pioneer. Ban list, eh? MTG ban list? Looking for a Meat Hook is banned? Yeah. Morning, what's with the balloons? Well, it's my birthday today, and somebody broke into the studio yesterday and put all these balloons in the studio here. Yeah. Miss Alfonso, she got me. So I woke up this morning and this is what I found. So thank you very much for tuning in. I'm looking for a copy of the ban list here. MTG ban list December 2023. Wizard. Where's the ban list? All right, Ancient Den. It doesn't look like Up the Beanstalk or it doesn't look like Up this Beanstalk made it onto the ban list or Fury. Isn't today? Let me know if there's a better place to get. Maybe it hasn't come out yet. No, it's got to be out today. Icebreaker ban list, banned and restricted list announcement. Interesting. Well, let's take a look here. I would say it looks as though Fury. Let's take a look at Fury. Fury is on the top movers and the shakers. So obviously, I think Fury didn't get banned, right? I'm thinking Fury. Fury was left alone. Happy birthday! Thanks, Michael Superbacker. Looks like Fury is holding at the $35 mark. A lot of people were expecting Fury to get banned, and you could see his price actually start to move downward just up and before the weekend. Let's see if we can put some lines on charts here. Yes. Okay, the lines on the charts are working good today. That's good. Last time I did the stream, Brody's epic pen was not so epic. You can see right up to this point, just up until a couple of weeks ago, Fury did see a little bit of a downtick in price. So with the dodging of a banning, I would hope that please don't make a liar out of me, Wizards. But with Fury not seeing a ban here over the Monday, it's ticked up in price on the top of the list. Rakdos Scam. I don't know why they call it scam, but because it's like Rakdos. But maybe it's scam because you're like stealing your opponent's stuff with Ragavan, Dothy, and Fury dealing damage. So Rakdos Scam, very good mid-range deck in the format. A lot of people hoping that Fury would see the ban, but it's back on the top of the pile here today with a 5% tick up in price. Bloodline Keeper. Here's a card from Modern, $23. This one transformed from Innistrad. 3/3 flying vampire for 4 mana. You get to put a 2/2 black vampire creature token onto the battlefield by tapping it. And then for a black, you can transform the Bloodline Keeper only if you control 5 or more vampires. Interesting. Then you get this 5/5 Lord of Lineage. Other vampire creatures you control get +2/+2. And then you can tap it to put the 2/2 vampire. This sucker is $23. Where is it getting played? In Edgar Markov. Mostly in Commander format, as you can see here. So don't let this list fool you. The Bloodline Keeper from Innistrad is definitely a card from... it's definitely a card from Modern that's played in Commander. But now we see a card like this, Dismember. Very interesting. So let's take a look at the chart on Dismember. I'm happy to see this card making its way onto the movers and the shakers here today. And I'll tell you why. I speculated on this card a while back, especially because of the Phyrexian mana in it. I was thinking anything that has an alternative mana cost is very good. Cards like Cave In, anything that allows you to pitch a card rather than paying its mana cost in full can be very good. And if it hasn't seen a reprint in a long time, that's the type of card that's going to see some long-term price increase. A card like Dismember, where you can essentially just pay one mana and 4 life to cast it. This card is actually quite good. You pay colorless and 2 Phyrexian black. I want to see what the foil version is ticking up to. Holy smoke! So the foil Time Spiral remastered version is quite expensive. The Modern Masters 25 version is around $5. The new Phyrexia foil, that one's pushing $16. So this is effectively the cheapest one here for $7. The Masters 2015. But this one's seeing also a tip up in price at about $5. Dismember, a very popular card, especially when you're dealing with creatures. Target creature gets -5/-5 until end of turn. You can pay this for just 1 mana and 4 life. Happy birthday. The ban list isn't out yet. Well, we're looking for it. It should be out sometime today. Any expectations? I see Fury leading the charge on the Modern list here this morning. Ragavan up there. This monkey business here. Ragavan seeing a tick up in price. I can't find the ban list anywhere, so it's probably going to be out a little later today. Any expectations? Any hopes, expectations? Do you think Fury's going to get banned? Some people must not, because he's sitting at the top of the pile here this morning with a 5% in price. Sounds like Fury and Orcish Bowman might get the ban. All right, well, where are you going to ban? Bowmasters is good. It is. I've lost a lot of money to that card. And like when a card like Ragavan comes out, I thought Ragavan was going to get a ban. Like if Ragavan hasn't got a ban, this card for 1 mana, whew, I mean, I don't know what it's going to take. The reason I don't think Ragavan will ever see a ban, especially in Modern, is because he's been like the flagship of all new products coming out, especially Modern Horizons 2. That would have just sort of canceled the entire Modern Horizons 2 product line if Ragavan had seen a ban. So a card like Ragavan probably not going to see a ban, but something like Bowmasters, perhaps, and Fury, or up the Beanstalk, maybe. But I can't see, like, Ragavan's 1 mana. It's so cheap and expensive. All those bans need to be applied to Explorer and Historic and Arena. The Arena meta game is trash. I want to see a ton of standard bans as well as Pioneer. Heracle's Recall. Here's a card that I played. Trying to find a home for this. Played in Vintage, but I've been trying to find a home for it in Commander. It's a decent card because for 1 blue and 1, you get to return all artifacts target player owns to their hand. So in a board wipe situation, it can return your stuff to your hand and keep it safe and sound. If your opponent's getting all his mana rocks out and he's dominating the board with treasures or perhaps too many clue tokens or a bunch of mana rocks, you can make them return them all to their hand for 2 mana. It's good to play on your opponent's turn, especially at the end step before you take your turn. Again, like I say, Blue Tinker's playing it, Paradoxical Outcomes playing it, Legacy's playing it, Merfolk. And here's the modern Merfolk list here. I don't see the commerce. Merfolk, what's the modern list playing these days? Playset of Aether Vials, Tide Shaper, Lord of Atlantis, Master of the Pearl, Merfolk Trickster, Silvergate Dex, Vidalian Hexcaster, Sylvanite Temple, and the Tidebender. Some decent cards to go with the Hurricles Recall. Cavern of Souls, card that, it's seen a few reprinting. I was always chasing this card to try and open it. It's really quite good. Speaking of opening, let's open the birthday present here from Mrs. Alfonso. I want to see what it is. Without any further ado, Benson, you and me, we're gonna celebrate the birthday here together. I got this present here from Mrs. Alfonso. I'm very lucky. I woke up this morning and had some. It was apparent that somebody broke into the studio last night, and better than toilet paper or tar and feather, I got the balloons. So let's take a look here. What do we got? This made my day. I was feeling like sleeping in today. I was really felt like sleeping in, and like it's been a long year. This year is like having a birthday at the end of the year makes for a rough year because everybody's had their birthday and celebrated, and then by the time the end of the year comes around, you go, "Oh, well, it's my time for the birthday." So I get a little burnt out at the end of the work year, and having the birthday at the end of the year is kind of nice because I can maybe follow up with some holidays. Let's see what we got in here today. What's this? More a box, a bag inside a box. So I got a little something here. What on earth did we get? A box inside a box. Oh, good. Guess Benson, maybe some El Paso. Let's see what it is. Let's see what you got. Michael Superbacker, thanks for joining me here on my birthday. I got a little package here. Let's open this up. I'm thinking, thanks, buddy. It's nice to have some buddies here. Okay, I got me 3 booster packs. How nice. I got Lost Caverns at Ixalan, Wild of the Valdrain, collector boosters? Oh my god. Lost Caverns, I got 3 collector boosters, and then I got a Lord of the Rings Tale of Middle Earth collector booster. OMG. And what's in here? I guess I'm gonna have to do some pack cracking videos to see what's in them collector boosters. So I got 3 collector boosters from Mrs. Alfonso. Oh my god! Look at this. So I got something pretty cool here. This is a limited edition number 1 of 1 Brody bobblehead pop. It's a good day to see you live. It almost makes my day. Thank you for spending some of your day with us. I can't look at this. Wow, this is super cool. She made it herself. Oh my god, Mrs. Alfonso. I got the Brody Alfonso. The Brody Alfonso Pops 1 of 1 limited edition bobblehead. How about that? This is the best birthday present ever. Oh my god. Have you ever seen such a thing? It's even got the magic 30 belt on him. Oh my gosh. Wow. The Brody Alfonso action figure. Nice. How about that? I can't believe it. Check this out. It for really it is. It's for real. Wow. Okay, well that's going to go right there. All right, get your I'm crying. I'm laughing so hard. This is hilarious. Uh, that's hilarious. That's awesome. I love it. Oh, how cool. Wow. I'm speechless. Yes, I am speechless. Got the Brody Alfonso Funko bobblehead. Benson says, I want one of those, right? Who wouldn't want a Brody Alfonso Pops bobblehead doll? Oh, I love it. This is my new favorite thing in the game room. Oh, wow. My new favorite thing in the studio. How cool is that? I'm super lucky. All right. Let's look at this card, the Greater Good. Sacrifice a creature, draw cards equal. Pardon me? Yes, please. Okay, thank you. So, Greater Good. Sacrifice a creature, draw cards equal to the sacrifice creature's power. Then discard 3 cards. 4 mana enchantment. It's got a flavor text on it from the Frankenstein. To examine the causes of life, we must first have recourse to death. Mary Shelley from Frankenstein. Greater Good. How many printings does this card have? It's got a bunch. Secret Lair, Judge Promo, 9th edition, Double Masters. Oh yeah, I opened this, I think, Double Masters. I wasn't all that impressed with it because I'm not playing green, and it's 4 mana for an enchant. It's like the Black Lotus of Funko Pops, right? Greater Good seeing a stick up in price. Oh, this card's quite low. Hezzy Huel Torag. I can't believe. All right, the Mycosynth Golem. This guy is still making waves? Wow. He took a poke up this Mycosynth boy, the 4/5 for 11 mana with affinity for artifacts, giving your artifacts affinity. Look at the chart on this sucker. He's seriously going east and west. This is Brody's trying to put the pen to the chart here this morning. Let's see here. Yes. When did it take the pop up in price? Just earlier this year. Right around here. So yeah, January, February, it went from a whopping $10 all the way to $30 or $40. The foil version of this card, $80. Like this would have been a great speculation. You had picked up a couple of copies. Let's see what this was worth pre-January. Oh, it's the I guess it hasn't gone up too crazy, but it was about $50 before the price hike. But it seems like the non-foil version of the Mycosynth Golem is outperforming the foil one percentage base wise. We've got Grief on the movers and the shakers list, the black elemental incarnation that says whenever Grief enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals their hand, you choose a non-land card from it, that player discards a card. A card that I really like is the Displacer Kitten. Let's take a look, because you can blink the Displacer Kitten, right? Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you exile a non-land permanent, then return to the battlefield under its owner's control. So if you can blink Grief, then with the kitten, how much is the kitten's $11? It's really cute, and it does shenanigans. This Displacer Kitten's really, really, really good. And with a card like Grief, every time it enters, you can choose a card from your opponent's hand. So if you can blink the Grief with the Displacer Kitten, or even with like Ephemerate or some way to get the Grief on and off of the battlefield. Yes, you have spoken about him before. I did talk about him before. And then one last card here before we go on the movers and the shakers here this morning. Kozlik, the Butcher of Truth. I'll be right there. Thank you. That's right. You can come right up here. Thank you. Well, thank you all for joining me. I got a fresh cup of coffee. Mrs. Alfonso has spoiled me here on the birthday. I really appreciate it. That's one way to wake up on a Monday morning with a little bit of magic, a little bit of fun, and looks like I got myself, check this out, the Brody Alphonso limited edition 1 of 1 Funko Pop. Man, now is that something? A couple of 3 collector boosters to open. Well, that's gonna be a really interesting pack opening, I'm sure. Some of the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. We've also got the Wilds of Eldraine and the Lord of the Rings collector boosters. Maybe it's time for Brody to get the 1 ring. What do you think? All right, well, thanks for joining me here this morning, everybody tuning in on the Monday, December 4th. May the force be with you. Thanks for tuning in on this very special edition brought to you by Mrs. Alphonso. Everybody here at the channel. If you want to send me a birthday gift, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and the thumbs up. Leave me a comment. That would be all I need in this world is a little bit of peace, love, happiness, and friends. That would be the best that I could ask for in this world and any other. Many kind regards, and we'll talk to you all again real soon.